Wholeness, welcome. This is Josh of Integrating Presence and Inner Skilled. Today I have Lynda Leonce with me. Lynda, how's it going today?
Going well. Thank you for having me.
Cool. I'll throw it right back to you with my standard boilerplate question here. Who is Lynda Leonce and what kind of work does she do?
I like the way you phrased it. Who is Lynda Leonce? Well, I would say Lynda Leonce I work one-on-one with people who are really ready to essentially see that the only way to truly transform, if there are areas of their life that they want to work on, the only way to true transformation is to put the focus within. And this is a passion of mine because 5 years ago, I'd say that was my wake up call. I was like, wow, my whole life was built around what I thought I should be doing. And I had no clue who I truly was and what my genuine desires and passion was. And I knew there was something there. I wanted to know myself beyond the mind made sense of who I thought I was and really live from alignment with the real me. And I had no clue how to get there or what that even was. But I knew the more I kept focusing on doing inner work, doing programs that resonated, it would lead me in the direction I wanted to go. Because for so long, I was doing things on the outer world, if that makes sense. So
Yeah,
that's probably a long winded answer to your question.
no, this is, I think this is fairly common for those of us. I don't know if we'd call it awakening or, waking up or becoming more conscious or realizing maybe, wait a second, what I've been told about how the world works and how things are maybe isn't the entirety of the picture. Maybe there's other things going on here. Yeah, very similar to a lot of folks I talk about in my own journey as well. So was there like an
Mhm.
epiphany or a pivotal moment, or did this happen more gradually? Or how would you, is there a turning point? Would
Yeah.
that make sense to mention that here?
Yeah, sure. I would say all along throughout my 20s and 30s, I knew like I was always wanting to achieve something, whether it was a promotion, own a home, whatever milestone in life that we tend to go for and feel like once we get that, then it'll be good. And I kept doing that. It was like promotion after promotion. I would achieve it. It would feel great for maybe about a week or two. And then my mind would want to go on to the next thing. And eventually I caught on and realized that it's not through whatever status my mind tells me occurs where you have the house, the ideal job, the family situation, the whole dynamic, the picture, the fantasy that the mind wants to create. It's not that that's going to make me happy. There's something missing. I'm not getting it. And I knew it was coming from a different place. And also, I'd say around my 20s, I really started being drawn into teachers like Eckhart Tolle and be similar types of teachers. And I was like, I'd go to work, and on my drive to work, that would be the thing I'd be listening to. I was always curious and knew that I wanted to be in that state, like that inner equanimity, that no thought. And I'd have glimpses of it and moments. And I knew that was the state I wanted and somehow couldn't maintain that. And so for years, I think it was something that was always there, but I never fully committed myself to making that the primary focus up until 5 years ago when things really, it just felt, it's like the pain of suffering and feeling like you're stuck, right? That's really what catalyzes us into really putting the full focus on transformation, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Now, some people have a quite dramatic point of suffering or area of suffering while others don't.
Yeah.
And yeah, I wonder if you could say anything about that. If you
Mhm.
were, I guess, fortunate enough not to have like a crisis moment or a really rock bottom thing like I did, which I'm
Mhm.
grateful for in retrospect, although not going through it. But then
Yeah.
I meet other practitioners that just seem to have the good fortune of having a little bit more gradual and not so much dramatic, rock bottom transition point. And I think, wherever we're at, we work with that.
Yeah.
And, there's pros and cons to each, I would say. But I guess, yeah, maybe from your own experience and then working with others, what you can say about this kind of turning point, and also, because I see some people that, yeah, they just kind of dabble, right, and they just have this commitment you talked about.
Mhm.
Is there something to say about that too, where there's just like no going back, or there's a commitment, and then I guess from there, I know not too much here, but we can talk about maybe some barrier points that people that are in similar situations as you saying, "Oh, that would be great, but
Mhm.
or if only this, then I could do it." These kind of hindrances that crop up along the way that keep people from going full steam, even though their heart is calling out for it.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say it was a moment where, like I was fortunate enough to finally get to a state. The fantasy was there of everything that I'd ever wanted. And at the same time, there wasn't this depth of feeling like, wow, there's this deep personal happiness. I didn't feel it. It was just this wanting for more. So I saw that it wasn't coming from an authentic place, what I was building for so long and finally having. And so I realized that in me, and this also included my relationships, it was like I realized that in me not speaking up, because I also was in a relationship where it was beautiful until it got to a point where I knew we were not as much in alignment anymore, and me not being authentic there and speaking my truth was not only holding me back but holding others back as well, because we were all in this dynamic where if I was not being truthful, then everyone else was kind of playing their part in the whole family dynamic, if that makes sense. So the minute I spoke up and said what I felt, then things started to shift for everyone around me, which was really beautiful because I was choosing myself. I was choosing to be real and genuine. And that, while it was uncomfortable because it created change for everyone, it led to everyone else being more truthful in their own way, in their own life, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We can't really kind of fool ourselves, so to speak, right? And I see people that, for me, it's kind of been a little bit of the opposite, where I'm a little bit too raw sometimes, a little bit too honest when it's inappropriate and not the right time to be that way, instead of waiting for the right time. And is this going to lead to harmony and, balance? And yeah, and do I need to say this? Is it necessary, and is it going to be helpful? So those are the things that are more challenging for me than the honesty part. But I see in others where it's so easy just to kind of stay in a dream world in a
Mhm.
sense, because it's what's known and what's comfortable, and and not to stir the waters, and it comes from a good place. It comes from a good place of like, okay, well, this could cause a lot of disharmony and potentially unbalance among myself and those around me. But
Mhm.
as you're saying, from what I understand, that there's a kind of cognitive dissonance for doing that, right?
Yeah.
Because we know in the long run it will be better to be honest, totally, and that yes, there may be waves in the meantime, but it will level out and be better in the long term if I'm just honest in the amount of energy it takes to
Yeah.
keep up these even just the slightest white lie, so to speak. Yeah.
Mhm.
So why that initial kind of shock and unpleasantness and disharmony is not not no fun. But you know that it's just it doesn't seem like it can be maintained long term, and so it's better just to go through that. So
Yeah.
yeah, and I think I got off track here, but no, this honesty, it really speaks to me. It's one of the precepts I hold to too, as a training. I'm not completely there. My challenge is joking around a little bit too much sometimes, even though most people, understand that, oh, this is a joke. In a sense, you can still be funny with it and not have to use so much,
Mm.
you know, things that aren't really 100% honest. So
Yeah.
anyway, yeah. So like, where have you seen yourself with this kind of practice, from where you were, to where you are now, where you're going, and kind of the the pros and cons of each way of doing it, and how you help others kind of awaken to the importance of being authentic and being honest with ourselves and with others too.
Yeah, the further I got into knowing myself, I saw that there was this mind-made sense of who I was and then the real me. And throughout my journey, I realized how much I was living in my head. Like if you asked me, do you want to go somewhere, or how does that feel back then? If you asked me, how does that feel? I would answer completely from here. I wouldn't even be connected to, does that feel exciting for me? Am I looking forward to doing that? I wasn't deciding from excitement and passion within my body, if that makes sense. It was all coming from logic and thinking and, well, that makes sense and it might be fun, so I'll go. Versus, wow, I feel so excited to go experience that with these people. I'm going to go do that. So the difference is huge because that's not even me. That mind made sense of self is not who I am. It's just conditioning, programming, who I think I am. It's a story that never stops. I know that to be the truth now. And the real me is here. It's in the body. I feel joy. I feel passion. I feel excitement. That's me. And so that's the part that I saw so clearly, that I was living from this part of me that wasn't even me. And it was because I was so disconnected from myself for so long. And so now that's part of my approach. It's when someone works with me, I ask them to, it's like holding a mirror and allowing them to have the awareness of when they're coming from here versus the real self. And it's not so much that I'm doing anything. It's more like, well, what part of you is saying what you're saying in this moment? And then let them have their own awareness, that because that's where the transformation comes. It's like when you see what you're doing and where you're coming from and why you're doing what you're doing, right? That's what creates the shift.
Intentionality, absolutely, yeah. Because it
Mm-hmm.
is, there's so many programs basically, like you're saying, out there. Okay, this is what you should do, like you talked about, and I've talked to so many people. Here's the career, here's the job, the vacation, the
Mm-hmm.
car, the house, the partnership, maybe the kids,
Yeah.
and then the eat, sleep, repeat program that a lot of us have been accustomed to, or programmed with, or at least conditioned to say, okay, that's success, right? That's what you should do. Don't
Yeah.
do anything outside of these narrow little boxes. And there's little variations in there. And so, yeah, it's just kind of like you're saying, that they hear something and then, okay, kind of go through the Rolodex and, okay, here's what the boxes are. And yes, okay, that's, instead of tapping
Mm-hmm.
inside and saying, okay, yeah, that's one thing, but what about, inside, in one's heart of hearts, in the yeah, I guess the authentic heart, if that's accessible, right? Now, however, I would say that marketing and programming is very sophisticated these days, and there's plenty that appeal to our emotions too, right? And not that that's wrong. There are very helpful emotions, obviously, and very supportive emotions. But there's also these, I would say, marketers and programs that play to our impulses and our like maybe overly indulgent sensuality, and yeah, I would say maybe, yeah, emotional intrigue and stuff. So now, how do you discern between something like that and something that's going to be really kind of truly in the heart of hearts and for our own welfare and happiness and for that of others, and not just kind of impulsive or indulgent I mean, there's nothing wrong with pleasure, right? This is a human
Mm-hmm.
we're in a desire realm. We're going to experience pain and pleasure. That's just one of the worldly winds that drive us, blow people around, blow me around. But how do we discern between what's really helpful and worthwhile versus like me indulging in my kind of something that's just going to be more, I don't know about hedonistic, maybe that's too far, but you know what I'm trying to say here,
Mm-hmm.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, I would say it goes back to, where are we coming from? Are you like, why are you, get curious? Why am I drawn into that? What is that about? Is it the real me? Am I feeling a passion and excitement that's coming from my body, like I feel this jolt of energy because I can't wait to go do that? Or is it because some part of me is being drawn in? It's like my mind coming from like, because the mind made sense of self will be coming from either fear or vanity, from what I've come to see. It's like at the core, it's making choices based on those two things. So is it coming from one of those two, or is it coming from the real me, which feels passion and excitement? So it's like allowing us to come from that radar, that resonance that is within our body. And resonance is alignment, right? When you feel drawn into something, it's because it resonates at a deeper level if it's coming from the real self and not the mind.
Yeah, I just wondering though that given my past behavior and actions, really,
Mm-hmm.
if I felt very kind of passionate and excited about a lot of things, but they weren't the greatest things for me, what I mean in the long run.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was indulging in things that I probably shouldn't be indulging in, and behaviors and things that really weren't for my best welfare and those around me. You know what I mean? And so that it ended up actually causing a little bit maybe harm. I would think maybe not
Mm-hmm.
extreme harm,
Yeah.
but in the moment I felt kind of and that's the mind justifying. I get that, but you know what I mean? So, like, how is there any kind of thing that needs to say, okay, well, even though I'm excited and passionate about this, maybe it is not the best thing for me and others around me. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Like ethics. How do ethics come into play here? And by ethics, I just mean harm.
Yeah.
What leads towards non-harming, and what leads away from it. You
Yeah,
know what I
that's a
mean?
good point. Do you have an example in mind? Maybe we can.
Well, I mean, I haven't drank since 2013. And a lot of it did come from pain, I would say, and just indulging and fitting in, belonging, right? I didn't
Mhm.
really seem to belong anywhere, but it was real easy to drink and do a few recreational things, Then I seemed to be accepted. I could bond with people that did that. I mean, that's a whole nother structure too, as
Yeah.
well. And I guess another thing where I thought that, there's so much like war programming. Some people might think that, oh, it's really justified to go to war with these people because, they're doing this, this, and this, and this. And I'm actually on the right side of God or whatever. And that gives me justification to do this and this and this. But
Mm,
and then it feels very passionate and really like, okay, this really needs to be this way. But
mm,
actually, if I step back, like, ultimately, long run, what's the point? Why? So there's a lot, so, but I also don't want to conflate this with someone, or those of us who have been so long repressing ourselves, right?
mm,
That they're doing everything that society told them to do, and it's not the right way. And so there needs to be a transition out of that, where one of the strategies is actually following guidance from within and
mm.
enthusiasm from within, right? To get
Yeah.
out of these certain unhelpful societal structures that are limiting, controlling, and maybe not in our long-term best interest.
Mm,
But then again, it's not that simple, because some of those do provide societal cohesion for some. Not everybody's called to go outside of that, and that's okay. I respect that journey too.
mm.
So I'm throwing a lot out here. So I just pick up wherever you feel called to there.
Yeah, when you were sharing your example, I would say the choice to, in the moment where we have a choice, let's say to drink, I would maybe just take a moment and ask, why do I feel like I want to do this? And really be clear on our why. Like if you really allow the consciousness and the awareness of why we're choosing the action, and you're clear on your why, it can be yes or no. The Whether you do it or not doesn't matter. It's like, why am I choosing it? And if you really know and see where it's coming from, if it's like the mind telling us that when I do that, then I can feel more at ease around people, then we can see where that's coming from versus I genuinely feel excited to do this act. Like it brings me joy to drink. And again, it doesn't matter the choice. It's more like if we're aware of why we're doing what we're doing, then the next time it comes up, maybe we will, maybe we won't, but at least the awareness is growing, because that's key to everything. We're not the mind, we're the awareness of all of our actions and our doings, if that
This
makes
is
sense.
this is so great. Yeah, intentionality is everything with karma. It's the intentional thought, the intentional speech, the intentional action, and that's the
Mhm.
why. That's what drives everything. And if there's skillful intentions, there's going to be skillful outcomes, skillful
Mhm.
results. So it's absolutely of the most vital importance. Yes, and this is really makes my heart happy to see you
Yeah.
stressing this, and that it's what it's all about. And like, there's this old thing that people that smoke, you would think that someone who doesn't know it's bad for them, but someone who does know it's bad for them and keeps going, that would be worse. But actually, because they know it's bad for them, they then have a chance to stop it, while the person that has no idea why they're doing what they're doing,
Yeah.
they don't really have any chance to as far as consciously
Right.
changing, right? So this is why it's vital importance. So let's, if we can dig a little bit deeper into this,
Sure.
how do you recognize this? How do you help people recognize why they're doing? Now, sometimes I know it's very easy, but when I first started off, there seemed to be layers, right? It's like a 5-year-old kid. But
Mhm.
why? And then you give an answer, but why? So it can get deeper and deeper and deeper. If we ask why to the answer we get for why, sometimes it goes deeper and deeper and deeper. And like you're saying at the beginning or a little while ago, it
Mhm.
does seem to be rooted in, like, a lot of things rooted in fear, or did you say ego, or ego, vanity,
Vanity.
vanity. Thank you. Yeah. So that's, but you can, like, just like, okay, I want to eat, right? I want to go to the store. But why do you want to go to the store? Well, I want to, get food for myself and people I love. Okay, but why do you want to do that?
Right.
Yeah, because it wants we should be responsible and nourish the body. But why do you want to do that? And
Mm.
then it just kind of comes down to, well, love, like, care, right? That's what it's, because it's, so that's kind of the root
Yeah.
of that. So I love this inquiry practice to arrive at that deeper and
Mhm.
deeper levels of intentionality. And so how do you see this? Do you have ways of working with
No, you've
discovering
you've
this? Yeah.
you've narrowed in
Mm.
on exactly how that happens. It's again holding in the mirror and allowing the person to get to their root of their why and allow them to see, like, where did this come from essentially? Is this genuinely something that I'm doing from my own desire, or is it a way of being that I picked up from throughout life, conditioning, programming? And once we see the root of a pattern we're doing that doesn't cause us happiness, that makes us basically feel like suffering, then we can remove it and choose to let go of it, because we see it's something that we genuinely, it doesn't belong to us. We picked it up from along our path in life and be done with it.
Absolutely. And I think it seems to be, until that's known, we're operating in so many habits. And habits are great because then we don't have to think, and, we can do things kind of on autopilot when we need to. That can be helpful, right? But then we
Mhm.
also have, or at least I do, have bad habits that can be replaced with good habits. And a lot of us are just acting on habits. So do you ever work with people, or how do you recognize habits that are, or I would just say routines, or habituated ways of being in the world that aren't helpful? Some of them are. And then what do you do with these things? One of the things I like to do is, just because I can see it and know it, or even see my intentionality, doesn't mean that I can automatically stop and change that, right? Sometimes that's all it takes. Other times there's really deep rooted habit patterns that take a while to work on, to change, or to replace. And yeah, and sometimes trauma and pain is involved in these too, which makes it a little bit even more tricky.
Mhm.
So do you work with habits and habit patterns, and beyond the intentionality?
I would say in the moment, once I feel like the foundation to everything really shifting is to maintain a sense of being here now. And so once that's the foundation and we're choosing to live from here now, moment after moment, because there is no past, there is no future, it's always now. And if we're in the now, then the next step forward is to literally what's coming up right now. Is there a pattern that's not flowing right, that gets in the way of what I want to be doing on a moment to moment basis? Pause there and look at that. That's the perfect thing in that moment to work with, to see it for what it is, and shift it in the way that works best for you in that moment. So, yeah, I feel like the patterns will unfold as you commit to living on a moment to moment present basis. And then naturally, it'll all arise over time and you can work with it, if that
I,
makes sense.
yeah, it does. And I love that. Then it doesn't get too theoretical, too
You don't have to
planning.
go digging around and
Exactly. Our
yeah.
planning, okay, if this happens, then I'll do this in the future. This is what I need to do over goal setting or digging back in the past. Oh my God, they did this. This is what I've been doing so much. Yeah, no, it's all right
Because
here
then
in the
you're out of
moment, right?
alignment. You're taking yourself out of now to do that. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's all happening right now. Even thoughts of the future, remembrance of the past, they're just thoughts happening now. And everything can present itself and be worked with in now. So that's beautiful. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So what else do you offer your clients, and offerings do you have, and how else do you work with people? What's important to bring up now around what you offer people, what you do, and then maybe some kind of current challenges either you're going through or other people, and why people are contacting you in the recent now, the recent
Mhm.
present. I mean the recent past, we'll say.
Yeah, thanks for asking. I would say primarily the focus is one-on-ones. However, there are a couple recorded things that I have available on the website. So inner peace, a way for people to practice. And it's a really short, like 15-minute guided program for tapping into and embodying inner peace. So that's one I love sharing because I feel like that can really anchor us into now, right? And then every now and then I'll offer a group program where I'll work with people in a small setting. So that's also there. And what were your other questions? You were asking challenges, you said?
Yeah, with clients one on one, maybe are there any kind of patterns or like themes that people are coming up against in recent time, or even with yourself, or what you see in the wider world where the emphasis needs is kind of at right now?
Yeah, I would say going back to what I was saying, it's like when we really see, and I like using an analogy of like a flashlight, when we really let it land that our flashlight has been pointing outwards for all of our life. That's how I saw it, as like I was shining a light out there, trying to make my life into what I wanted by focusing out there. But the minute I shifted the light this way, and allowed the light to shine on what was going on within me, patterns, my beliefs, my limitations, how I saw myself, that's when things really shifted because you can't shift and transform what you're not aware of. And if we keep feeling like if we genuinely believe it's the outer world that's creating our life, all our doing, then it's always going to be limited because the true source of how it's all happening is coming from within, if that makes sense.
It does, and it's kind of someone that hasn't done inner work. It's kind of hard for them to just, oh yeah, right, of course. No, it's not usually like that, because at least in my experience, we've been so conditioned, like you're saying, to orient externally, right? This is what we need to go towards. This is what we need to do, right? It would have never occurred to me to turn that around and go within. And it
Yeah.
just doesn't seem immediately apparent with all of our societal conditioning to orient us, at least in the States, right, externally and
Hmm.
driven. Nothing has value unless it's external. It couldn't be further from the truth. It doesn't work like that. As you're saying, you
Yeah.
said it so succinctly and concisely and beautifully. So I really appreciate that. And that foundational work and awareness is it can't be kind of reminded. We can't really be reminded of that enough.
Yeah.
So
And
much
it's like,
energy and so much energy and money and going into keeping us chasing a carrot externally,
mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so helpful to also remember that whatever is happening on the outside, like whatever obstacle or challenge, it's not about that. It's about us. It's about what is this here to teach me? What is this here to show me? What lesson is it here for me to learn? And once we get that that's what it's really about, then you start to hyper focus on the lesson. It's like, okay, I want to learn this lesson so that then the obstacle, it's interesting how you focus on the lesson, things shift, and then it's like more flow, more alignment, more joy, more lightness, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
huge. And it doesn't have to be like a hamster wheel either. Like it keeps repeating until, oh, I'm so bad. I haven't learned this yet. I need to learn my lesson. Not like that. Not like a bad school trip or something, you know. It's
Mhm.
like I like this notion, this concept of a spiral staircase. Every time we repeat it, we just get a bigger, broader perspective, right? And it's not like, oh God, I'm such a failure. I have to do this again. No, it's we're going to be faced with challenges in life all the time. So it's just kind of part of it is cause and effect, right? Because in
Mm,
the past that I've done this intentionally, well then now that's coming to fruit. But that doesn't matter so much. But what matters is right now. Because
mm,
now is the time that I have a chance to do it differently, you
yeah.
know? So that's where the emphasis lies. So yeah, that's beautifully put.
Mhm.
Well, I
Mm.
think this is a good place to start wrapping up. Why don't you tell people how they can get in touch with you? Yeah, you already mentioned, of course, you have. If you have any other upcoming offerings, you have a book too. So anything else you want to plug and draw people's attention to? And then at the end, why don't you take the listeners and viewers out on a final message too? What you like to leave
Yeah,
people with?
sure. I would say Live From Your Truth is the website. There you can find ways to contact me, do a one on one, and all the other things that we mentioned are there. Also, links to my social media where daily, as I see things from a different perspective, I love sharing and putting it out there. So there's a lot of free things that you can find there. If some of what I'm sharing resonates, then that'll probably resonate as well. And also, final message I would say you might look at someone who has done a lot of work on themselves and feel like the mind is so quick to be like, wow, that's amazing. I don't think I can do that. Or I don't know if that's for me. Or I have too much stuff going on and I can't. The truth is, from my own experience, is all it takes is consistency and the desire to keep looking, keep shining that flashlight this way, and anyone can do this, you know, anyone can transform their life. I used to watch, and occasionally I'll watch things, but it's not what we see is just people who have consistently shown up for themselves on a daily basis. And that's what leads to all the success stories that we're seeing out there, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. It's a beautiful way to leave this. So may all beings everywhere come to know their highest happiness for themselves and for all beings everywhere. May all beings everywhere realize awakening and be free.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.